The desert stretched in every direction, endless waves of golden sand rising and falling under the hot sun. For centuries, the land had hidden secrets beneath its surface, guarding them in silence. On this day, a small group of explorers stood at the foot of a weathered pyramid, brushing dust from their clothes and staring at the ruins with wide eyes. Amir, a young historian, walked ahead of the others. His boots sank slightly into the sand as he looked up at the pyramid's peak, its sharp lines softened by time. He had dreamed of this moment since he was a boy. The stories of pharaohs, their treasures, and their mysteries had filled his mind for years. Unlike many who came in search of gold, Amir had come for knowledge. Behind him, his companions unloaded tools and equipment. Karim, a skilled surveyor, spread maps on a flat rock. Nayla, who was trained in ancient languages, adjusted her scarf against the wind and looked at the carvings on the stones. Their guide, a quiet man named Omar, kept watch with calm patience, his eyes always scanning the horizon. The ruins were older than anything Amir had studied. The walls near the pyramid were covered in half-buried carvings. As the group cleared away sand and stone, the faint outline of a hidden entrance appeared. It was sealed by massive slabs of rock, placed with precision that no ordinary tools could have cut. "This is it," Amir whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "The chamber must be inside." Karim studied the structure and shook his head. "Strange work. Not like the other pyramids. These cuts are too clean, too sharp. It feels unnatural." Nayla traced her fingers over the symbols. "These are not ordinary hieroglyphs either. Look here. These signs look like stars. And these, they look like paths." Amir leaned closer. The symbols shimmered faintly under the sunlight. He noticed a repeating pattern that looked like 3 circles connected by lines. It reminded him of constellations. He felt a thrill run through him. This was not just a tomb. It was something more. With great effort, the group worked together to move the stones. The task took hours, but finally, the last slab fell away with a heavy thud, sending a puff of ancient dust into the air. A dark opening yawned before them, the smell of earth and age flowing out like a breath held for thousands of years. Amir stepped forward with a torch in hand. The light cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow passage. The walls glittered faintly as if small veins of gold were running through the stone. "This is no ordinary burial site," Amir said softly. His voice echoed back to him, low and hollow. The group entered cautiously. Their footsteps echoed in the silence, and every sound seemed too loud. The air grew cooler as they moved deeper inside. The walls were lined with golden plates, each carved with intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the torchlight. It felt less like a tomb and more like a place built to protect something sacred. At last, the passage opened into a vast chamber. The explorers stopped in awe. The ceiling rose high above them, covered in golden tiles that reflected the torchlight like 1,000 tiny suns. Columns of stone lined the room, each one wrapped in carvings of stars, rivers, and strange shapes that looked more like machines than art. In the center of the chamber stood a massive sarcophagus made of shining gold. It was larger than any Amir had ever seen, resting on a platform carved with both Egyptian and unknown symbols. The air in the room felt heavy, as though the chamber itself was alive and watching them. Nayla's voice shook as she whispered, "Look at this. The writing is mixed. Some of it is Egyptian, yes, but some of it? I do not know what it is. These shapes, these lines, they do not belong to this world." Amir stepped closer to the sarcophagus, his eyes wide. The golden surface was smooth, yet pulsed faintly with a soft glow. He could see his reflection in it, but it was blurred, as though the gold was not solid but alive with energy. Karim frowned and crossed his arms. There is something wrong here. Gold does not shine like this after thousands of years. It should be dull, faded. But this looks untouched, as if it was placed here yesterday. Amir's heart pounded in his chest. He remembered the stories of curses, of treasures hidden by the pharaohs to test the greed of men. Yet deep inside, he felt that this was not about wealth. The patterns, the strange carvings, the glow, all of it pointed to a secret greater than gold. He turned to his companions and spoke with steady voice. This chamber is not cursed. It is guarded. Whatever is inside here was never meant to be found easily. This is not just a treasure of kings. It is something left for the future. The group stood in silence, the weight of his words pressing on them. Beyond the golden sarcophagus, a faint hum filled the chamber, like the sound of distant thunder hidden under the earth. The explorers exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that their discovery was far more dangerous and far more important than they had ever imagined. The desert above remained quiet, the wind sweeping over the dunes, as the chamber of gold waited. For the first time in thousands of years, it had been opened, and its secrets were stirring once more. The golden chamber stood in silence, but the silence was not empty. It pressed against the explorers, heavy and strange, as though the walls themselves were listening. Amir held his torch high, his eyes fixed on the shimmering carvings that lined the walls. Every symbol seemed alive, pulsing with a faint glow that followed the light. Nayla moved closer to one of the walls and brushed the dust from its surface with her hand. More of the carvings appeared, revealing lines of hieroglyphs mixed with shapes she had never studied. Some symbols looked like circles spinning within circles. Others looked like long paths stretching into the sky. Her voice trembled as she read aloud. It speaks of fire that comes from the stars. It says the chamber holds power that no man may claim without trial. And here look, it says a guardian waits in silence until the unworthy disturb the gold. The words echoed around the chamber, soft yet sharp. Karim frowned deeply, his arms crossed. Guardian? That sounds like one of those legends made to frighten grave robbers. Old kings wanted to scare thieves away from their tombs. Omar, who had been quiet since they entered, finally spoke. His tone was steady, yet cautious. Legends are not born without reason. In the desert, warnings are carved for those who will not listen. A place like this was not built to be touched by common hands. Amir walked toward the sarcophagus at the center of the room. The golden surface glowed faintly in the torchlight. He reached out his hand but stopped just short of touching it. He felt a vibration in the air, as though the gold itself was humming. I do not think this is only a tomb, Amir said softly. Look at these patterns. They do not honor a pharaoh as usual carvings do. They speak of the sky, of stars, of power beyond the earth. Whoever built this place wanted to hide more than treasure. Nayla traced another section of the wall. Her eyes widened. Here it says, those who enter must prove their wisdom, for strength and greed will bring only destruction. She turned to the others, her face pale. This is not the language of kings who wanted gold buried with them. This is something else. Something that feels older. The hum in the air grew stronger. The explorers exchanged uneasy glances. The chamber no longer felt like a silent room but like a waiting heart, slow and steady, ready to beat faster at any moment. Suddenly, a faint light flickered across the carvings. Lines of gold lit up, running like rivers along the walls, connecting the symbols together. The entire chamber shimmered with strange energy. The explorers stepped back in shock. "What did we do?" Karim asked sharply, gripping his tools as if they could protect him. Amir looked at the glowing lines with awe instead of fear. "We did nothing. This chamber is alive. It has been sleeping, waiting for someone to open it." The light spread until it reached the sarcophagus. The golden surface rippled as though it were liquid. For a moment, Amir thought something inside was moving. Then the glow dimmed, leaving the room quiet once more. The silence returned, but it was no longer the same. The explorers felt as if unseen eyes were fixed on them. Omar whispered, "The Guardian is not a story. It is real. We have woken it." Nayla stepped back toward the entrance, her hand on the wall to steady herself. "We should leave. This is not for us to take. Whatever lies here is beyond our understanding." But Amir shook his head. His eyes were filled with determination. "If we leave now, the chamber will remain a mystery forever. Think about what this could mean. These carvings speak of the stars. They speak of knowledge hidden for thousands of years. We came here for discovery. If we stop now, we betray that purpose." Karim argued, "Discovery means nothing if it kills us. Look at this place. It is not natural. Gold should not glow. Walls should not hum. And curses should not sound so real. We came for history, not for madness." The group stood divided, their voices echoing against the golden walls. The carvings seemed to respond, their faint glow pulsing slowly as if breathing with the tension. Amir stepped closer to the wall again, studying the star-like symbols. He traced his hand along a map carved into the stone. It showed constellations above the earth, but some of the stars were unknown to him. At the center of the map was the same symbol he had noticed outside, 3 circles connected by lines. "This," he whispered, "is not a curse. It is a test. The Guardian is not here to destroy but to judge. The pharaohs must have known the secret. They built the pyramid to protect it until the right time." Nayla looked at him with worried eyes. "And how will you know when the right time is?" Amir did not answer. He simply stared at the glowing map, his heart beating faster. The desert outside had always been a land of secrets, but now he understood that this was no ordinary secret. This was something left for humanity itself. The group gathered their tools and prepared to study the chamber further, though unease never left their hearts. Every sound felt louder, every step heavier. Deep inside, they all felt the same truth: the chamber was not empty. Something was waiting, watching, and judging every choice they made. Above them, the desert winds howled softly over the dunes. Below, in the golden chamber, the explorers stood between fear and discovery, uncertain of what would awaken next. The chamber of gold stood in eerie silence. The faint hum in the air had not faded, but had grown steadier, as if the entire place was breathing. Amir kept his torch high, but the golden walls no longer needed its light. Thin lines of energy pulsed through the carvings, glowing like veins beneath the stone. Nayla, standing near the sarcophagus, whispered, "The chamber is alive. It feels like it is waiting for something." Karim's jaw tightened as he stepped back. "It is waiting for us to leave. We have already gone too far. This is not history anymore, Amir. This is something we are not meant to touch." But Amir could not turn away. His eyes were fixed on the great sarcophagus, the heart of the chamber. The golden surface glowed softly, rippling as though light itself was trapped inside. The hieroglyphs on the walls seemed to form patterns around it, guiding the eyes toward the center. Omar, who had remained silent most of the time, suddenly lifted his head. His sharp eyes caught movement above. From the ceiling, small fragments of dust began to fall. A low vibration shook the ground, so subtle at first that it could be mistaken for imagination. Then it grew stronger, until the entire floor trembled. The explorers froze, staring at one another. The sarcophagus shuddered. A deep sound, like the grinding of stone, filled the chamber. The golden lid shifted, though no hands touched it. Slowly, it began to slide open. Nayla gasped and covered her mouth. It is opening by itself. Amir's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to step back, yet something inside him urged him to stand firm. This was the moment the warnings had spoken of. This was the guardian. The lid of the sarcophagus moved aside with a heavy crash. A blinding light burst from within, forcing the explorers to shield their eyes. The glow spread across the chamber, painting every wall in gold and white. The hum became a steady roar. When the light dimmed, something stood where the sarcophagus had been. It was not a man, not a statue, and not a simple machine. It towered above them, built of stone and shining metal, its form carved with the same star-like symbols that covered the walls. Its eyes glowed with a deep golden fire, steady and unblinking. The guardian had awakened. The explorers stumbled back in awe and fear. The creature raised its head slowly, its movements smooth yet heavy, as if it carried the weight of ages. When it spoke, the sound was not like any voice they had ever heard. It was deep, echoing, and seemed to come from the very walls around them. "Who dares to enter the chamber of the stars?" The words rang out in a language none of them had studied, yet somehow, they understood. The guardian's voice pressed into their minds, heavy with authority. Amir stepped forward, his hands trembling. "We are explorers. We seek knowledge. We mean no harm." The guardian's eyes glowed brighter. "Knowledge is not free. Treasure is not for the greedy. Those who stand before me must prove their worth. If you fail, the chamber will claim you." The explorers stood frozen. Karim whispered sharply to Amir, "This is madness. We cannot face such a thing. We need to leave now." But the entrance behind them sealed with a sudden crash. A slab of stone slid down from above, blocking their escape. The chamber was now a prison. The guardian raised one massive arm. Symbols lit up along its body, flowing like fire through stone and metal. The golden walls responded, glowing brighter. In an instant, the chamber began to change. The floor shifted under their feet, breaking apart into glowing platforms that floated above a dark abyss. The ceiling seemed to stretch higher, filled with a swirling sky of stars. Nayla cried out in shock, clutching her torch tightly. "This is not real. It cannot be real." But Amir realized it was both real and unreal. The guardian was reshaping the chamber into a test. The warning on the wall had spoken of trials, and now they were standing inside the first of them. The guardian's voice echoed again. "You will walk the path of stars. Show wisdom, not fear. Show courage, not greed. Only then will the chamber open its heart." Amir stared at the floating platforms. Each one carried symbols, glowing faintly. Some looked like constellations, while others looked like paths leading into nothingness. He felt his mind racing, connecting the shapes on the walls with the maps he had studied before. "This is the trial," Amir said firmly. "It is not about strength. It is about understanding." Karim shook his head, his face pale. "And if you are wrong?" Amir looked at him with calm determination. "Then we fall. But if we do nothing, the guardian will destroy us anyway." The group hesitated, the weight of choice pressing on them. Omar, silent and steady as always, gave a short nod. We follow the one who understands. If these are paths of stars, then Amir must lead. The guardian's golden eyes burned brighter, as if listening to every word. The chamber waited. The platforms glowed like steps leading into the unknown. With a deep breath, Amir stepped forward onto the first platform. The golden symbol beneath his foot lit up and held firm. Behind him, Nayla, Karim, and Omar followed carefully. The trial of the chamber had begun, and the guardian watched, silent and unblinking. Above them, the illusion of stars swirled brighter, as though the heavens themselves leaned closer to see whether humanity was ready to face the test. The explorers stood on the glowing platform, the abyss stretching below them like an endless pit. The chamber no longer felt like stone and gold but like the heart of another world. The guardian stood tall on the far side, its golden eyes glowing as it watched. The stars above swirled in strange patterns, as though the sky itself was alive. Amir's breath was steady, though his heart pounded in his chest. He studied the glowing symbols carved into each floating platform. Some looked like constellations. He recognized Orion, Sirius, and the great river of stars known as the Milky Way. Others were unfamiliar, strange shapes that did not belong to the skies he had studied. The right steps must follow a path, Amir whispered. We must walk only on the constellations that belong to our sky. The false ones will lead us to the abyss. Nayla clutched her scarf tighter, her eyes darting across the glowing steps. And if we choose wrong? Amir answered firmly. Then we fall. But if we choose with knowledge, we live. The first platform beneath his feet glowed brighter, as if agreeing with his words. He stepped forward onto the next one, which bore the familiar pattern of Orion's belt. The platform pulsed with light and held firm. Relief washed over the group. Karim, however, muttered under his breath. We trust too much in stars and guesses. This is no science. It is a trick. Still, he followed, for the sealed entrance left no other choice. Step by step, Amir guided them across the platforms. Each time he placed his foot on a symbol from Earth's sky, the stone lit with strength. When he tested a platform with a false pattern, the stone flickered weakly and crumbled into dust before their eyes, vanishing into the abyss. The trial was clear. The guardian's deep voice echoed across the chamber. The heavens guide the wise. The unwise lose themselves to darkness. The explorers pressed on, fear heavy in their hearts. At one point, Nayla nearly slipped when a platform shifted under her weight. Omar grabbed her arm quickly, pulling her back before she could fall. Her torch nearly tumbled into the abyss, but she clutched it tightly to her chest. Careful, Omar said calmly. Fear is louder than wisdom. Amir nodded, grateful for his steadiness. With each correct step, the sky above grew brighter, as though rewarding their progress. But the trial was not over. Halfway across, the platform split into 3 separate paths, each marked with different symbols. The group hesitated. Nayla pointed toward the left path. Those look like rivers. Could they mean the Nile? The Egyptians followed the Nile as their guide. Karim pointed to the right. These shapes look like tools, perhaps the tools of builders. Pharaohs honored builders more than stars. Amir studied both sides, then lifted his torch toward the center path. The symbols there were faint star maps. One of them showed the 3 circles connected by lines, the strange symbol he had seen outside and again on the chamber walls. This one, Amir said with certainty. The chamber is not testing us with the Nile or with tools. It tests us with the stars. This is the language carved on every wall. This is the heart of the trial. Karim groaned but followed. The group moved across the center path, each step heavy with tension. As they walked, the chamber changed again. The illusion of stars above began to spin, forming storms of light. The air grew thick, and the sound of rushing water filled their ears. In an instant, the abyss below turned into a roaring sea. Waves rose high, crashing against the platforms, though no water touched their feet. It was an illusion, yet it felt real enough to stir fear in their hearts. Nayla covered her ears, shouting against the roar. The wall said there would be more than one trial. We are not finished. The guardian's voice boomed once more. Strength will falter. Courage will stand. Only those who face fear may reach the end. The platforms shook violently. A great wave surged upward, rising like a wall of water ready to swallow them whole. Amir clenched his fists. His mind told him it was not real, yet his body trembled at the sight. Hold steady. Amir cried. This is a vision. It cannot harm us unless we let fear control us. The wave crashed over them with a deafening roar, but the moment it struck, it dissolved into golden dust. The platform steadied again, glowing brighter than before. The illusion faded, and the abyss returned to its dark silence. Omar let out a slow breath. The chamber watches us. It knows our fear, and it knows our courage. Step by step, they pressed on until the final platform appeared. Beyond it, a great golden gate rose from the chamber floor. The gate shimmered with light, covered in the same three-circle symbol that had guided them. The guardian lowered its massive head, its golden eyes burning with intensity. You have walked the path of the stars. You have faced fear and chosen wisdom. But the chamber is not yet open. One more trial awaits. Only then will the secret be revealed. The explorers stood in silence, their bodies weary yet their hearts burning with determination. The golden gate before them promised either revelation or ruin. Amir placed his hand upon the glowing surface, feeling the hum of power beneath. He looked back at his companions and said firmly, "We are not finished. The chamber has tested our steps. Now it will test our hearts." The gate shuddered, golden light spilling into the chamber. The next trial was waiting. The golden gate trembled under Amir's hand, its surface glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The three-circle symbol pulsed with light, as if responding to his touch. The explorers stood close together, their eyes fixed on the gate, waiting for what would happen next. Slowly, the gate split down the center. A deep sound echoed through the chamber, like ancient stone moving after thousands of years. Light spilled through the opening, brighter than the torches they carried, and a wave of cool air rushed out. The group shielded their eyes, but Amir kept looking forward. When the gate opened fully, it revealed a second chamber. Unlike the first, this one was not lined with gold. Instead, its walls were smooth, dark stone, carved with lines of glowing light that pulsed in patterns. At the center stood a tall pedestal, and upon it rested a sphere made of crystal and metal. The sphere turned slowly, floating above the pedestal without any support. Its surface shimmered with star maps, shifting and changing as if alive. The explorers stepped inside cautiously. Their footsteps echoed softly, the air strangely still. The guardian remained outside the gate, watching, as if this part of the trial was not its domain. Nayla gasped as her eyes fell on the sphere. This is not Egyptian. No human hands shaped this. Amir nodded, his voice steady but filled with wonder. This is what the chamber was built to protect. Not gold. Not treasure. Knowledge. He stepped closer to the pedestal. The sphere spun slowly, the glowing maps shifting across its surface. Some of the constellations were familiar, yet many were not. Paths of light stretched between the stars, forming networks that looked like roots through the heavens. Karim frowned and shook his head. This cannot be real. It is some trick. How could such a thing exist here, buried under a pyramid? Amir ran his fingers over the air above the pedestal. The sphere reacted, glowing brighter at his touch. Because it was left here. Someone gave this to the ancients, and they chose to hide it. They called it a curse so that men driven by greed would stay away. But it is not a curse. It is a gift. The lines of light on the walls shifted, forming symbols that matched the ones on the sphere. The entire chamber seemed to awaken with energy. A voice echoed, not from the guardian, but from the very walls themselves. It was not loud, but clear, filling their minds with meaning. Those who seek beyond greed, those who carry wisdom, will see the truth of the stars. The explorers froze, their eyes wide. The voice spoke in no language they knew, yet every word was understood. Amir's breath caught in his throat. It is speaking to us. The sphere glowed brighter, projecting images into the air. The explorers gasped as they saw visions of great ships traveling between stars, cities that floated in the sky, and rivers of light flowing across the darkness of space. The images were beautiful and strange, beyond anything their world had known. Nayla whispered, "This is not only a map. It is a memory." Amir nodded slowly. "A memory left for us. Whoever built this wanted humanity to know we are not alone. They wanted us to learn, but only when we were ready to understand." The images shifted again. They showed the building of the pyramids, not by slaves or simple tools, but with beams of light and strange devices. Tall figures of stone and metal, similar to the guardian, stood beside humans, helping them. Then the images changed once more, showing the golden chamber being sealed, the knowledge buried, and warnings carved into stone. Omar's calm voice broke the silence. The pharaohs were given this knowledge, but they chose to hide it. They feared what men would do with such power. Karim shook his head in disbelief. And they were right. Look at us. We fight for gold, for power, for kingdoms. If this had been known, men would have destroyed themselves long ago. Amir turned to him, his eyes burning with determination. But this is why we are here. The chamber did not open to thieves. It opened to us because we sought understanding. The guardian tested us, and we passed. This is not a warning anymore. This is an invitation. The sphere pulsed with light, as if agreeing. The star maps shifted until they revealed a single path, leading away from Earth to a cluster of stars far beyond. The glowing lines formed a trail, a guide into the unknown. Nayla's hands shook as she pointed. It shows us where to go. It is a map to their world. Amir's voice was quiet, almost reverent. Not just their world. Their gift. This is the revelation. Humanity was never alone. We were chosen to walk among the stars. The chamber fell silent again, the images fading into the sphere. The explorers stood in awe, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they had seen. The golden treasure that legends spoke of was nothing compared to this. This was the true treasure, the key to a greater destiny. Behind them, the guardian bowed its massive head, its glowing eyes dimming slightly, as though in respect. The trials were over. The chamber had revealed its heart. Amir placed both hands gently on the pedestal. He whispered to himself, but the others heard. We came seeking history, and we found the future. The sphere pulsed once more, its glow steady and strong. The path to the stars had been given, and humanity's story was about to change forever. The chamber was quiet, except for the soft hum of the glowing sphere. The explorers stood around the pedestal, their faces reflecting the light of the floating star maps. Each of them understood the importance of what they had found, yet the weight of decision pressed heavily on their minds. Amir stared at the sphere, the images of star paths and distant worlds still spinning in his mind. He could feel the pulse of energy beneath his hands, and he knew the choice before them was not simple. This knowledge could change everything. Humanity could rise beyond Earth, or it could fall if greed and selfishness took hold. Karim broke the silence. We cannot take this with us. We cannot even fully understand it. If we remove it, we might destroy ourselves or the world. His voice was tense. The gold was tempting, but this is far too powerful. Nayla stepped closer to the pedestal. Her hands hovered above the sphere. We could study it here, carefully, and take only what we can understand. We would not be greedy. We could share knowledge responsibly. Amir shook his head. Even careful study could be dangerous. This chamber has waited thousands of years. It tested everyone who entered. The pharaohs hid this knowledge because they knew mankind was not ready. We may not be ready either. Omar, who had been observing silently, spoke finally. The chamber did not open for the greedy. It opened because you led us with wisdom. We were tested, and we passed. The choice is ours, but it is not only about knowledge. It is about responsibility. The sphere pulsed in response, almost as if listening. Lines of light stretched toward each explorer, connecting their hands to the paths of stars above. It felt alive, waiting for their decision. Karim swallowed hard. If we take it, we might bring war, conflict, or worse. If we leave it, we may never see this again. How do we know we are making the right choice? Amir's mind raced. He remembered the warnings carved into the walls, the trials on the floating platforms, and the roar of the illusionary wave. Each test had shown him one truth: the chamber was not about wealth or power. It was about the heart of humanity. Greed would fail. Courage guided by wisdom would succeed. He looked at Nayla. The temptation to take the gold was strong, and some might have fallen. But the true test is not what we desire. It is what we choose to do with what we are given. Knowledge is a gift, but only if we honor it. Nayla nodded slowly. Then we leave it here. Amir looked at the sphere. Its light was steady, almost warm, as if urging him to choose. Not completely. We do not take it away, but we learn. We write down what we can understand. We let the world know the truth, but we do not claim it as ours. We respect the chamber, the pharaohs, and the guardians who built it. Karim sighed, relief washing over him. That is wise. Too much power in the wrong hands would be disaster. Omar stepped forward. Then our choice is made. We respect the chamber. We honor its knowledge, and we take only what is meant for us to learn. The sphere pulsed brightly, then began to project images into the chamber again. The explorers watched as the star paths formed clearer lines, showing patterns and routes, but now without the sense of urgency. The energy in the room felt lighter, welcoming. Amir reached out his hand once more. He did not touch the sphere, but hovered over it, feeling the hum of power. We have been given a responsibility, he said quietly. Not to possess, but to understand. Not to claim, but to guide. Nayla whispered, "It is beautiful. I have never seen anything like it. And we did not take it? That must mean we passed the final test." The guardian, still standing outside the golden gate, lowered its head. Its glowing eyes softened, and for the first time, it did not seem threatening. It had observed their choice and accepted their answer. A faint hum of approval filled the chamber. The golden walls of the first room reflected the light from the sphere, glowing brighter than ever. The chamber had acknowledged their wisdom. Karim looked at Amir. "I think we are ready to leave. The secrets of the stars are still here, but we have touched them enough to understand our place." Amir smiled. "Yes. We have learned, and we have chosen wisely. That is enough. Humanity does not need to take the power. We only need to grow worthy of it." Nayla glanced back at the pedestal. "I hope one day others will be ready. But for now, the chamber's secret remains safe." The explorers turned toward the exit, walking slowly but with steady hearts. The golden gate closed behind them with a low, echoing sound. The hum of the chamber faded, leaving only the soft glow of the stars above the floating platforms. Outside, the desert wind blew softly across the dunes. The chamber waited silently beneath the pyramid, its secrets preserved, its tests complete. Amir looked at his companions, his face calm and proud. "We have faced fear, temptation, and trials. And we have chosen wisely. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us worthy." The group walked together into the sunlight, the golden pyramid standing silent behind them. The desert held its ancient secrets, and the chamber beneath remained alive, waiting for the next generation to walk the path of the stars with courage, wisdom, and honor. The desert stretched endlessly before them, golden dunes shifting gently under the warm sun. Amir, Nayla, Karim, and Omar walked together, their steps slow but confident. The pyramid behind them stood silent, hiding the chamber of gold and the sphere of star knowledge. The trials were over, but the lessons lingered in their hearts. Amir paused and looked back at the structure. "The chamber tested us. Not for treasure, not for power, but for our hearts. It showed us what humans must choose when faced with the unknown." Nayla nodded, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. "We could have taken the gold, the sphere, anything we wanted. But we did not. We learned, we understood, and we respected what was not ours to claim." Karim let out a deep breath. "I was afraid at first. I thought the chamber would crush us, destroy us. But the trials were not meant to harm. They were meant to show what it means to be human." Omar remained quiet, his eyes scanning the desert horizon. Finally, he said, "Humans are not the strongest species. We do not have the speed of a cheetah or the strength of an elephant. But we have something else. We have choice. And that is what the chamber saw in us today." Amir smiled. "That is what I realized during the trial. Strength alone would not have worked. Courage alone would not have been enough. Wisdom, patience, and respect for knowledge, that is what allowed us to succeed. That is why we were chosen to see the chamber's heart." The group continued walking, their shadows long across the sand. They carried no treasure, yet the weight of knowledge filled their minds. Each of them knew the secret they had witnessed could change the world, but it would only do so when humanity was ready. Nayla spoke softly. "The chamber showed us visions of the stars, of civilizations beyond our world. It gave us hope. And it gave a warning. If we misuse what we learn, we will fail. But if we choose wisely, we can grow beyond Earth." Amir nodded. "Knowledge is a responsibility. Power is not for personal gain. The chamber taught us that humanity must rise by understanding, not by force. That is the true gift of the pharaohs and their guardians. Karim looked thoughtful. Do you think others will ever be ready? Will the chamber open again? Amir's gaze returned to the pyramid. Perhaps, when humanity is ready to learn without greed, without fear. Perhaps the next explorers will walk the path of stars as we did, and pass the trials. The chamber waits for those who are worthy. The desert wind blew, carrying a faint shimmer of light from beneath the pyramid. It was as if the chamber itself acknowledged their choice, glowing softly in approval. The explorers walked in silence, each thinking of the lessons they had learned and the responsibility they now carried. Omar finally broke the quiet. We have proven ourselves, not by taking, but by respecting. That is what sets humans apart. That is why we can be trusted with knowledge, even if only a little at a time. Amir smiled. The chamber gave us a chance to see what we are capable of. Courage, wisdom, respect, they are what define humanity. Strength alone will never make us great. Only our choices will. Nayla raised her eyes to the sky. The sun was bright, and the stars were hidden in daylight, but she could feel their presence, a reminder of what awaited beyond Earth. We are small, but we can reach far. One day, humans will walk the paths the chamber showed us. One day, we will be ready. Karim laughed softly, a sound of relief and wonder. We left with no gold, no treasure, but I feel richer than ever. The lessons we carry are worth more than anything buried here. Amir looked at his companions, his heart full. The chamber's secret is safe. The guardian has tested us, and we passed. We now understand that being human means more than survival. It means responsibility, courage, and wisdom. The group reached the edge of the desert, where the first city of their world could be seen in the distance. The golden pyramid stood behind them, silent and eternal, holding the chamber of gold and the sphere of star knowledge deep beneath its foundation. Amir took a deep breath. We have faced fear, temptation, and trial. We have chosen wisely. Humanity has passed the test, if only through us. That is the answer the chamber was waiting for. Nayla smiled. We did not take what was not ours, and we shared what we could understand. That is what makes us human. Omar nodded slowly. The guardian and the chamber have seen that. And now, humanity has a chance to grow, to reach for the stars when the time is right. Karim looked back at the pyramid one last time. The future is waiting for us, and the desert has kept its secret safe until we are ready. I have never felt so certain of anything. Amir placed his hand on his chest, feeling the weight of responsibility and the pride of achievement. The chamber has shown us that humans are special. Not because of strength or wealth, but because we can choose wisely. That is our gift, and that is our future. The explorers walked forward together, leaving the pyramid and its secrets behind. The sun shone brightly, the desert wind carried a soft warmth, and the chamber beneath remained silent, waiting patiently for the next generation to walk the path of stars with courage, wisdom, and heart. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had answered.